All right, 1 second here. All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. This question that came in last week, I guess, that I didn't get a chance to do. Didn't get a chance to do this week. And question that's not necessarily uncommon question, but I think an important question. And the question was, I want to actually before I get that, I just want to do one follow up to the question or the response that someone gave me that spoke about last time. Part of it was about learning Kabbalah and about the fact that the claim was that so many Jews stop being observant because they don't get the deeper meaning, behind all the mitzvah. Now, again, I would agree that it is important to try and, get deeper meaning, understand things, at a higher level. Even without Kabbalah, you don't necessarily need Kabbalah for that. But I do want to make one other point, and that is that people don't like to learn in general, which again, learning definitely not an easy thing. Day in and day out, it can be a grind. People find it, people can find it dry, not so interesting, even though some people would say I could take anything, make it interesting. Could be, right? Maybe could be, could not. That's debatable. But the point over here is that, the claim is that they don't learn deeper. People don't learn deeper. They don't learn Kabbalah, then they're going to go off. Now, I think one thing, and I sort of mentioned this before, but I just want to flesh out the idea, and that is that it could be that learning can be dry. Could be. I mean, there's, multiple levels, a lot of things, definitely a lot of things that we learn, right? But I want to make one thing clear. Anyone who's learned, and got an enjoyment, got the taste of what learning is at whatever level, and they tasted what it is and they got excited about it, they don't have this question. Yeah, there are plenty of things we don't understand, right? Many, many things we don't understand, and we have to go deeper. We should go deeper, trying to understand it better. But if someone never really got the enjoyment of learning, when they're younger, when they're older, then they're not going to enjoy it. Is that 100% going to, turn them off and they'll never learn anything? Could be, because they don't enjoy it. And if it's something you don't enjoy, you're not going to do. And if that's the base of what the Torah is, by deriving, where the mitzvahs come from and all that, yeah, you're right. Then I would agree. So, there are people that, yeah, they'll say, I'm not, born religious. They'll say, I'm not cut out for learning. Now, it could be someone's got a learning disability, got other things going on where learning just doesn't go. Okay. Doesn't mean they're not, they're not religious here. Also doesn't necessarily mean they're going to throw off the entire yoke of Judaism because they don't like to learn. Now, learning is crucial, I would agree. But the point is that if someone really got the enjoyment at some level, doesn't matter when they're younger, when they're young adults, older, whatever it is, if they got at some point the enjoyment of learning, then that's not going to throw them off. Right? That's not going to make them go off, so to speak, because they enjoyed it. They got something out of it. Now, it could be other things, maybe more dry. Could be. 100% could be. Right? But if someone enjoyed and they had some level of enjoyment, they're not going to go off because of that. 100%. Does that mean they have to learn Kabbalah? No. 100% doesn't mean that. Totally doesn't mean that. Because there are people who want to learn forever. They could. Because they get such enjoyment. Right? Rabbi Cheskel Abramsky, blessed memory. Once said he was the head of the Beis Din in London. So he once said, how can I get rewards? In the next world for learning Torah. It's so enjoyable. How can I get a reward for that? Why would I want a reward for that? It's so enjoyable by itself, even without reward. No, not everyone. Not everyone's going to think that way. Certainly not everyone's going to think that way. But at the same time, if a person had enjoyment, some level, it's not going to cause them. To go off over here. So I just wanted to answer that. Something else I want to get to, but there's a question there. Why, after 120 years, there's no judgment? Doesn't mean there's no judgment. Every year there's judgment. Rosh Hashanah is coming up. Sunday nights, judgment every year. 100% there's judgment every year. Right? A person gets judged. The world gets judged. Right? But the person is not going to, for their final place in the world to come if they make it. Right? Not a guarantee. But if we try hard, we should have a portion of the world to come. So that means you cannot have a portion of the world to come and get true judgment until you die. It can't happen in this world. We're not going to get judged in this world, per se. But isn't it true? Isn't it true that God judges a person every year? 100%. We get judged on Rosh Hashanah. Not only that, there are times if we make someone feel bad about whatever, God can open up our file also and judge us. We make them jealous, right? We make them jealous for whatever reason, right? That could put the evil eye on us. Let's say a person's building, they have, and the other person can't build, or they don't own, or they, let's say, the way that their place is set up, they can't add on. Or you have a fancier car than they do, better kids, they think, or whatever. That can also bring out judgment. Why? Because God's going to say this person's jealous of you. That doesn't necessarily mean you did anything wrong here. Right? We've spoken about the evil eye, but it doesn't necessarily mean you did anything wrong. What does it mean? It means the person's jealous. You're causing him pain, even indirectly. God says, okay, let's open up the file. Let's see if the person themselves, deserves to be punished here. Now, I would say, why is my file? Why is someone's file being open? Should never be open. Just because someone's jealous. You didn't necessarily do anything on purpose, but you made them jealous. So now God hears the pain. God hears the pain of that individual. Now, it could be wrong. Could be 100% wrong. But God hears the pain. So if God hears the pain, he's going to open up your file. And he's going to see, okay, did you cause the pain? Did you really cause the pain or not? And if you come out squeaky clean, you're not going to get punished here. If you don't come out so squeaky clean, you're in trouble. So Kaufman would say you never want your file opened only on Rosh Hashanah and only at that time. Because then God's going to scrutinize you with a fine tooth comb. He's going to say, okay, let's see what they did. Let's see who they're holding. But you say, I didn't do anything here. I didn't do anything fancy. The person's jealous for no reason, okay? God will give you a free pass. But if that's not the case, and now that person's in pain, and you caused it because you were negligent, you wanted to show off, whatever, you're causing someone pain. When you cause someone pain, God says, okay, let's open up their file. And as we said before, you don't want that file open. You only want that file open once. That's it. You don't want it open more than that. So judgments, in the sense that God's going to take all their mitzvahs and all their transgressions, and God's going to see what he's going to do with them. Right? God's going to 100% see, what he did, what he didn't do, all these different things that cannot be done in this world. Right? That cannot be done in this world. Right? What's the reason? The reason is simple. Because a person, their reward's coming in the next world. It's not going to be in this world, per se, unless someone's totally evil and God has to give the reward in this world. But in general, it's going to be in the next world. So it's going to be in the next world, right? And your soul's going to bask in God's glory. So judgment cannot take place while you're alive. Now, it doesn't mean God doesn't judge a person in this world either. Right? But the ultimate judgment has to be after 120 years. God is not going to look at every last thing you did and judge and give you a place in the next world. That's where a person's going to go. Right? So it has to be after you're dead. Right? But it doesn't mean there's not judgment now. Every year comes Rosh Hashanah. There'll be judgment. Judgment for Jews, judgment for non-Jews, judgment for the world, the judgment across the board. But the true ultimate judgment of what a person did and everything they did can only happen later. Can only happen after 120 years. It's not going to happen in this world, right? Because the reward or punishment is not going to be necessarily in this world. And the ultimate reward and punishment is the next world, right? So it's not the scope of this Q&A to go, why is there a next world, right? And what the purpose is and all that. I will say one thing, the Ramchal and Path of the Just. If you read Path of the Just, the Ramchal says in this introduction, I think in the first chapter as well, the Ramchal mentions there, and he makes clear the world's person stationed in this world cannot be the ultimate. There has to be a world to come. There has to be a spiritual world. And he goes and he proves that. Why this world cannot be the ultimate? Because of the way people suffer, what they go through, a lot of different things. So that ultimate judgment will not be until the next world, because the person has to be judged what they did, all their actions, good or bad, and God's going to judge it. But why does that ultimate judgment take place in the world, in the spiritual world? Because that's where the reward's going to be. Punishment's also going to be there. Now, does it mean a person cannot get reward in this world? No. A person could get reward in this world. What's the reward? What's the reward in this world? A person did a mitzvah with great joy. You could get some sort of reward for that in this world, not full reward. But God also has to give reward to evil people and not give them anything in the next world because he doesn't want them there. So he'll give them the reward for helping Granny cross the street. For doing any act of loving kindness, because it's only fair. Person's going to get paid in this world. Right? God has to reward them. But what about all the terrible things they did? Okay. So God's going to wipe them out in the next world. But the ultimate judgment cannot be in this world. We're talking about in spiritual terms. Right? It's for the sake of the soul. The soul doesn't shine in this world, cannot shine in this world. Impossible. Can only be in the next world. So that's why judgment doesn't take place now. And it's going to be later. Yeah, let me see. There are a few questions. Here's something else I didn't want to get to. Is there anything that I can do on Rosh Hashanah? Yeah. I would advise anyone who's interested in the Noahide laws. So I give a class on Noahide Nations. You can sign up for free on noahidenations.com. Right, then we can sign up for free. And And what do you call it? And you can see that there are classes on the month of Elul, class on Rosh Hashanah. There are certain things they can do. 100% there's certain things they can do, right? But obviously it's not going to be the same as a Jew. So you have to see what I said over there, or send me an email and I can send you the MP3. Someone asked, what's the rabbinic way of curing someone of homosexuality? No idea, right? There are therapists out there. That can help homosexuals. What does the Talmud say about it? Can't say. But there are ways to do it. There are ways that they can be helped. They're not doomed forever, right? Definitely not doomed forever. But it's not an easy process. Just because they're attracted to that doesn't mean they're doomed forever, right? But there are people that can help such people. Is there a rabbinic formula for such a thing? Not that I know. Obviously, if you're talking about a desire, I mean, this is kind of a strange desire because, if you're going to look according to what the Torah says in the book of Genesis, husband's going to cling to his wife. And then it tells me Leviticus chapter 18, homosexuality is forbidden, right? So you see, it's not a natural thing. Even if someone would say it's genetic, or the doctor once say it's genetic, let's say it is. So what? We're genetically wired in different ways. Some people are genetically wired in a way where they get angry a lot, or they like to sleep a lot. They don't have discipline, right? They don't like discipline. So a person, you could say, wow, I got that bad gene. I got a bad gene. I want to help other people. That's a bad gene. We can blame it on genealogy. We could. Or the way we're wired. Okay, so what? So just because the person's wired a certain way, let's say you didn't do it to yourself, but you're wired that way. That means you can't overcome it, or says? It's like any bad character trait. Right? So, doesn't the Torah tell me you're not allowed to go after your heart, after your desires, after your eyes? Right? So you got to work on it. It's like any desire. It's like anything forbidden. Got to work on it. You're going to say, well, this is harder to work on. Okay. And someone who's a womanizer, you don't think he's got what to work on? Someone who cheats other people, they don't have what to work on? They could be wired that way. Could be. Right? Could be some things are easier to overcome than others. Right? And there are certain desires that are never satiated. Sexual desires are never satiated. Right? They're just not. Person that can have a desire all the time. All the time. So you're going to say, well, person got an addiction. Very well. Very good. So it's an addiction like any other addiction. Person got a food addiction. Got a drinking addiction. Right? He's got, a person going to have a drug addiction, internet addiction. Right? None of these are good. And they have different repercussions. So we're going to have a gambling addiction. Somebody addicted to sports, you're going to say, oh, it's not the end of the world. Depends what they do. It depends what it is. I would agree. There are some addictions that are worse than others. And there are some things that I would say are more normal than others. This is not normal. Because the very guy, if you say, well, everyone's going to act on it, and be that way, well, the world is going to get destroyed. You're not going to have any children in the world. Right? It's just a practical repercussion. So, it's a desire that person would have to learn a lot of mussar. Tremendous amount of mussar. Right? Amount of ethics in order to at least get it in their brain what the problem is. But you're going to say, it could be a chemical imbalance. So let's just speak about that. If it's a chemical imbalance, you got to treat it other way. You can't just treat it with Torah. Right? Someone who's, let's say, bipolar, they need therapy, they need medication. Someone who's depressed, depends how seriously, they certainly may need therapy and medication. Torah cannot solve all that. Torah doesn't solve all problems, right? But I would say, the more a person is working on themselves, It can help a lot. You can't will it though. If a person has a chemical imbalance, all learning Torah in the world, it's not going to stop the chemical imbalance. Right? Person may need, medication for that. But certainly not, Torah can't solve everything. It can help. The outlook, a person can have can change. But, someone who's got that type of addiction, it's going to take a lot to fix it. Whole outlook has to change, right? What they see, who they hang out with, there are a lot of things that have to change. And I'm talking, even with therapy. A lot of things have to change. But if a person, it's not impossible because a person's outlook can totally change. And they can understand it's wrong and this and that. But you know what? Some people just have desire. It's part of them. Now they're wired that way. It's hard. Or someone, let's say, has a sex addiction. It's also hard. Maybe sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. Come up when a person's in has a lot of what do you call it? Not anxiety. What's the word? Think of it in a second. Stress. They have a lot of stress, right? All things being equal, they can work on it. Things are good, so they have, there are ways to work on it. With most there are other things, but it's not going to solve the problem 100% because it's always there. Right. But, again, like any other addiction, you have to, person has to detox over here, and a person, you got to do many things so it doesn't get triggered. But again, I don't think Torah can will that. Torah can help. The perspective can help for sure, but doesn't necessarily solve it. Right. That definitely doesn't solve it. Right. Or certainly may not solve it. But, I've been in contact with people that, Torah helped them a lot. The perspective, the outlook totally helped them. Right? Did it get rid of it? Is it never in their mind? No. There. Doesn't necessarily mean it's being acted on, but Torah a person's outlook can change a lot of things. Right? But it doesn't, I just want to point out, again, I'm not a therapist, I didn't play one on TV. Right. The point is, it doesn't necessarily uproot it. It can help. Right. It's definitely a step in the right direction. But certainly without therapy, and probably most of these things we mentioned, person's not going to get fixed here. Person's not going to be, okay. They'll be up and down. People with bipolar, let's say, if their medication is good, they see a therapist when they need to see the therapist, then, that won't be an issue, right? They'll function properly, right? And I know people like this. They're on medication. They see a therapist, on a regular basis, and they're good, right? They're definitely good. So, again, can it spiral out of control? Could. If you don't have the right medication, the right doses, certainly could. But again, all the Torah in the world does not fix a chemical imbalance. Perspective, again, can help. But if a person has that chemical imbalance, the person needs to offset it. Because that, with therapy and, in Torah and the proper perspective, that can fix it. Am I going to say 100%? I'm not saying that's 100%, but it can keep it at bay. 100% should keep it at bay. All things being equal. But again, there can be letdowns. There could be, person could have anxiety. Person, what happens if a person's in stress? How do you deal with stress? Some people deal with stress. Some people deal with stress in a lot, different ways. Totally different ways. The question is, what's going to be? How they're going to deal with it. And how do they deal with it in a way they don't get caught back in the same thing? Person's gonna have a relapse. I don't think there's any question, right? I don't think there's any question. But you have to try and keep it at bay, and you have to try not to do that. It's like any bad character trait, but it's a little more difficult, probably a lot more difficult, A lot more difficult if you don't have, there's no, what do you call it? If a person's not going through therapy or on some medication. Yeah, somebody asks, there's a curse on evil parents. Yeah, so having them recognize that and willing to obey the commandments of God. They're, having evil parents, yeah, is hard, right? We mentioned before. Difference of opinion between the Rambam and the Torah, son of the Rosh, whether parent is evil, you have an obligation to honor them or not. So we said, respect you need to have. Can't contradict them, shouldn't yell at them, scream at them, embarrass them. They may deserve it, but you're not allowed to. But it's also a test. Parents, one of the 10 commandments, one of the hardest commandments to keep. Very hard mitzvah to keep. And I'm saying that even if you don't have a problem with parents, it's still a hard mitzvah to keep. Right? So, even if parents give, a child, a hard time, don't worry. God's going to take care of them. God is going to punish them, no question about it. But a person has to deal with it. It's hard. I don't think there's any question. The only advice I can give is that the person has to look at these people like they're imbeciles, right? And they're mentally challenged, right? I'm not going to say retarded because I don't want people to yell and scream at me. It's like they're mentally challenged. So you take someone with a 5-level IQ, and they're going to say things and slobber and bump into you and whatever. You're going to get upset because they have a 5 IQ. You can say, but these people have a PhD. They're very smart. They're very bright, but they're anti-Semites. They're evil. Okay. Yeah. They're mentally challenged. So what are you going to argue with? I'm not going to say it's not painful. It could be painful. Right? We mentioned this many times. But again, that was best advice I ever got. People say things, even if they're family. You look at them like they're insane, which they are. Because they're not going towards Torah mitzvahs, so they're insane. So an insane person, I'm going to get upset at. Why? Why would I get upset if someone's insane? You have to separate who the person is from what they say. Because what they say, terrible things. I agree. They may say terrible things. Okay. So that person deserves to be in an insane asylum. So, I can tell you that was the best advice I ever got. It wasn't always easy to implement, but it was great advice. When it came to family members and others saying things. So I don't even think about it. I don't even give it a last thought. Someone said something to me a few weeks back or whatever, a very low blow, let's say. I didn't even have my claws ready. I didn't even pounce. Thought about it a little bit. It's painful to hear. I'm not going to say no. It's painful to hear. But you know what? I didn't flinch. Because what I say doesn't matter. They're not going to listen. They're not going to empathize. So what am I wasting my time for? And if I call them on it, they're going to say, well, is it true? Isn't this, that, and the other thing? Well, this, that, blah, blah, blah. So what? If I be at the top of the world and everything's good, you wouldn't even give a second thought. You wouldn't even flinch over here, right? But when a person struggles and goes through difficulty and all kinds of other things, and you feel like you're getting hit upside the head, yeah, that's hard. I would agree. And I told someone straight to their face. Once someone made a comment to me, I'll tell you. Whether I should have said it or not, it's a different issue. But what I said was, I'm going to give you free advice. You can take it or not take it. My free advice was never, ever, ever hit someone in the head when they're down. When they're down, they're on their knees, they're struggling in different ways. Maybe not their own fault. You want to say it's their fault, whatever it is. You never, ever, ever hit someone when they're down. Because when you do that, you could break them. You could destroy them. That was my advice. That's all I said. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I was pretty proud of myself. And that was my advice. Now, does that make a dent in the person? No. Does that mean they didn't say anything after that? Probably did. Right? So what? I made my statement. They can do whatever they want. They can go eat kogo. It doesn't matter. All right? But there are people out there, I would agree, are insensitive. And they don't care. And they think they're doing it for your benefit. And they think, oh, I'm going to say this. And they're going to do this, that, and the other thing. And things are going to change. Like they have the power to change. Right? But, I would think, and again, this is just me, I would think that people would be a little more sensitive and should have a little more common sense. The older I get, I see common sense is not so common. Right? It's just not. People say things, they do things. They don't think. People don't think. In many ways. And they're insensitive. Totally insensitive. Oh, wow. That must be hard. But that, they're not having a hard time. That they can certainly help you out if they wanted to. They don't. They don't want to. Okay? It's their choice. You can't force someone to drink. Right? It's their choice. Isn't that painful? It's painful. Okay, so what? You're right. I would agree. It's painful. You know what? We move on. You say, how insensitive could a person be? I can write books. Not one book, many books. And people think they're well-meaning. So I come up with all these great ideas. Someone's going to tell me, why don't you just do it? If I had time. People are insensitive. Many people, they just don't care. And if you get offended, they'll say, suck it up, like Whoopi Goldberg would say. You're too insensitive. Sorry, you're too sensitive over here. Or they're just going to say, I don't care. That's what I think. I can tell you how many people told me that. You can say what you want. This is what I think. Right? Or they'll start saying, I know you're not going to care what I think. So stop. Don't say it. I've done that a few times. Didn't help. I'm going to tell you what I think anyway. Okay. Go in one ear, out the other. It depends what it is. I've heard a lot of things. Insensitive things, cruel things. That people didn't want to take responsibility for. What do? You catch somebody. They say something off the wall. Very insensitive, and then you call them on it and they deny it. They say, I didn't say that. I said, okay, I'm not recording here, but you just said that. No, I didn't say that. They denied it. So what are you gonna do? What do? You gotta go. You take it right upside the head. You move on. So you're gonna say, what would the Chovos Levavos say? You say, God's getting to you through them. They're gonna get punished for being insensitive. True. Right? But the question is, okay, so God's sending you a message. He's sending you an anti-Semite. It could be a self-hating Jew. And say, oh, you're this, you're that, you're a fanatic, shouldn't have had so many kids, you shouldn't have this, shouldn't have that. Right? So why is God sending that message to you? Right? Let's analyze for a second. Someone says that. Right? Someone made a comment to me many years ago that I think I had my fourth kid. And they said, in the ketubah, in the marriage document, they should only have 2. 3 maximum. I said, really? Where does it say that? Now, they're only kidding, obviously. They weren't doing it to, whatever. What do you answer to that? I'll tell you what my answer was. I said, not mine. I said, show me the fine print. Any of them. You can show me the fine print. Let's see where it says. Let's see where it says. And of all these kids, which one should we take back? Which one should we kill? You tell me which one. Oh, no. God forbid. Beautiful kids. This, that. Right? It's a joke over here. Total joke. So the question is, what am I going to get so upset? Someone's going to say, yeah, it's insensitive. I would agree. I would 100% agree. You know what? I can't let these things bother us. Just can't. There's too many other things going on in our lives. It's insensitive. People are cruel. I get it. 100%. I'm saying, if someone takes this advice to heart, what anyone says can never hurt a person. When it comes to Torah and mitzvahs, they can say it's outdated, it's antiquated, you're in a minority, you're there. You're... Sticks and stones, let them talk. Okay. Think what you want. If you be obnoxious like me, start asking questions. So what about this? And what about all the synagogues that are, dropping off the face of the map? And what about, all the other things going on? Oh yeah, but Judaism's a good try, so Judaism will die. Well, that's not what the Torah says. I don't care about the Torah. So what are you arguing about? It's a waste of time. 100% a waste of time. Someone here points out a lot of quotes there. Let's see some of them. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 9, heart is deceitful above all things. Yeah. Right? Doesn't God say? By Noah, the hearts of man are evil from when they're young. Okay. So why does God have remorse that he created man? Doesn't God know man can do terrible things? True. But he can be happy he created man. He can be happy when man does the right thing. He can be sad when man does the wrong thing. Doesn't mean he doesn't know they're capable of it. But you're right. The heart is deceitful. Okay. How do you make the heart not deceitful? Torah. Learning lots of Torah. Right. Jeremiah chapter 23, verse 14. They're also strength in the hands of evildoers. No one turns back on wickedness. All of them have sold them to me. Okay. He's giving Musa. He's telling God, he's telling in the name of God how bad the Jewish people are and what they're doing. Right? And how bad we can be. Right? It's true. We have the power to tap into evil. God created evil. Right? A little problem for Christians because they, rechange what the verse is. Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7. Okay. But at the same time, you're right. It's a lot of evil. Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 18. Give no warning, speak to the wicked from his wicked ways, save his life. Right? Same wicked man shall die in his new. Yeah. He's not going to repent. A lot of them are not going to repent. 100%. God gives everybody the opportunity to choose the right path or the wrong path. You choose the right path, even as a non-Jew, you have a portion of the world to come. You choose the wrong path, you don't repent. Why should God give you a portion of the world to come? Why should God give you a portion of the world to come? He dies in his iniquity. What does that mean? He doesn't repent. Right? He sins. Does he got to repent? He doesn't repent over here. Right? Oh, Ezekiel chapter 18, 21. But if a wicked man turns away from all his sins, keeps all my statutes, very good, does what is lawful, is going to live. Yeah, repentance helps a lot. Can change a person night and day. 100%. 100%. But wickedness is there for a person to tap into if they want. Not that God wants them to. But they could. Why did God create evil? Because we have free choice. Doesn't mean he's evil. But he gives us free choice to make the right decision or wrong decision. And the evil inclination helps a lot. To try and turn us away from it. Because there are plenty of people out there, can say, wow, I really want to believe in God, but my life, it's kind of hard. He made my life a misery. Right? Now, they're using that as an excuse. Because they say, oh, but let's look into it. Maybe you have to suffer because of this, because they don't want to hear it. That's just an excuse. Well, you did this, you did that. If my life was good, I believe in you. If you show me miracles, right? So the Brisker Rav said, not true. Someone from America came to see the Brisker Rav. Rav Israel Zev Soloveitchik, a blessed memory, and said if there would be more miracles, American Jewry would be saved. If God would show up in miracles, then more people would keep Torah and mitzvahs. The Brisker Rav said not true. Why did the Brisker Rav say not true? Brisker Rav said not true very simply because you got to be a vessel. If you're a vessel, to want to accept the truth, that can help. But if you're not a vessel for that, you're just looking for excuses, no, then even all the miracles in the world God could show, never going to help. Totally never going to help. So wickedness gives us the ability to choose it or not. And there are different ways, different things. People have free choice. You can say it's not fair. People say this, people say that. They do other things. Right? It's true. There's a lot of cruelty in the world. A lot of cruelty. But what keeps the person on the straight and narrow path? What's the only thing that keeps a person on the straight and narrow path? Torah. That's the only thing that shows discipline. That shows a person can be totally moral. Why? Because God is absolute. First of the 13 principles. God is absolute. God doesn't change. God's not fickle. Morality doesn't change. Right? So if that's true, can people make mistakes? Yes. Can people be cruel? Yes. Can they be used against you? And God using them as a stick against you? Yes. Question is how we deal with it. So a person can say, well, it's very easy to get beaten down in life. You're right. But how many times are we going to make that excuse? How many times are we going to take people's crud? I'm not going to say the other word. How many times are we going to take their crud for nothing? Just because they feel like saying something. I have to take it. I have to listen to it for what? I got enough holes in my head. I don't need another one. And nothing comes out of it either way. Only question is how we react. So a person can say, now get to the question I really wanted to get to. It's a good segue over here. Right? Someone asked, we come in contact with all kinds of different people. Probably many of them, we'd say, well, like what's going on? Maybe the wrong place at the wrong time, maybe the right place at the right time. Could be a good messenger, a bad messenger. So the question could be, why are we in contact with people? In general, people can help me. People, God forbid, hurt me. It depends. I mentioned this, I think, on that I had a case when I was going up north, and someone wanted me to drop something off. They said, you going to this place? I said, yeah. I said, oh, my brother works there, and I have to give this thing before Rosh Hashanah. Right? It was either to one of his kids, or I forget who it was. Do you mind delivering it? So I said, no. So he said, okay, call him right before you get there, and he'll come. He's a barber, blah, blah, blah. So I call him up. He's like, okay, I'll be right there. Couldn't figure out how to get in, and this, whatever. Like 5 minutes later, he shows up. Right? He was there. So he said, unbelievable. So, look what my sister gave over here, this, that. I gave it to him. He went on his way. I went on my way. He's saying right place at the right time. Right before Rosh Hashanah, get another mitzvah to do. Didn't cost me anything. Right? So that you could say, okay, God orchestrated in such a way that this person is going to say, okay, I don't want to give it to the driver. Who knows if the driver is going to do it or not? Right? I'll give it to someone who's going there. Right? So yeah, someone, before she asked me, she asked someone else. They said, no, I'm not going there. I'm going somewhere else. Then she asked me. She said, are you going there? I said, yeah. She said, you mind taking this? I said, no. Right? I know this person from a whole an older woman, whatever. And said, here, here's my brother's number. Gave me his number, his son's number if you can't get him, and whatever. So you say, he brought us together for what reason? Because she wanted to get this thing, to her brother, to give it to whoever it was. And God used me as a vehicle. I mean, whatever. I was the messenger. Okay. Busted a good job, got me there, called the guy, came out, this, that. The question is, right place at the right time. Right? God has a lot of messengers. Unbelievable. Right? Now, the question, that wasn't really the question. Question was, let's say two people meet, but there are a lot of obstacles. Tremendous amount of obstacles. So, okay, they met. Right? 100%. They met, their paths crossed. And there are a lot of issues. Now, who says, we come in contact with someone, everything's supposed to go so smooth? A person can have rocky friendships, or they'll leave it, or they won't, or whatever. But when it comes to, let's say, if they're, a prospective mate to marry, and there are issues. Issues can come up, for sure. Some issues are not overcomable. Some issues that are out there, red flags, that a person has to be cautious of. So why would God put them together? Again, I'm not a prophet here. It could be, I'll throw this out there. I'm certainly not a therapist, so you can take it for whatever it's worth. It could be to show a person what they should not look for, what is not good for them. Even though maybe it looks good, or maybe it started off good and then, went south, went sour, so to speak. Right? So is there no purpose to this? No. Any meeting we have with anybody has a purpose. We may not always figure out the purpose, right? But certain things, I would agree, will help us grow to understand who we are and who we want to be. I'll give an example. Let's say, someone thinks, this person's going to be the right partner, right? And, and whatever, and they get rejected. It's going, well, does that they get rejected? Now they're thinking, not only being hurt, being upset and what they do wrong or they didn't do wrong, or even if it ended in an amicable way. And, it didn't end in a nasty way, let's say. Right? So now the person's second guessing, what happened over here? You thought this was it. You thought, okay, you're ready to move on. The person says no. Now, the person can be very broken by it, no question. So the question really isn't, well, so why did they meet in the first place? That's not the question. That's not really the question. The question is, okay, after that experience, and after going through that, what did they gain or what did they not gain? Is there a pattern over here? And if they made, let's say, some mistake, whatever the mistake might have been, and that's what ended everything, right? And there's no way to fix it, let's say no possible way to fix it. The mistake has been done. So now a person knows, I'll never do that again. I'll never make that mistake again, hopefully, right? But not just that. It goes further than that. Because in the end, the person could see maybe there were other things that the other person didn't have. And it never would have been good. And you're always going to be fighting. So that would never be good. So that saved the person from, a life of destruction. Who wants that? Right? But the problem is, we think it's the right thing. Right? Anyone who's been jilted, probably, most of us, they thought, this is going to go this way and whatever. And it doesn't. We get hurt. We have feelings. We get hurt. What did we do wrong or we didn't do wrong or, why not? But in the end, we may not figure it out, right? I'll make it more difficult. We may not figure out why. But sometimes God's going to show us, and hopefully we see it, why this thing would have been so negative. Why nothing good could have come out of it. Right? Because what we think does not necessarily mean it's the reality. And sometimes we're blind. Isn't that the old cliche, right? Love blinds a person. So there's a difference between love and infatuation. Infatuation, a lot of it has to do with just physicality. Love is something much deeper. Much, much deeper. And in our circles, we don't touch before marriage. So when does love come? Comes after marriage. Doesn't come before. Right? And most people, quote unquote, or boyfriend, girlfriend, when they get married, doesn't last. Usually. No, I'm not going to say 100%, but a lot of times they're going to be issues because they thought one thing and now it's something totally different. Or you got more obligations, not the same thing, whatever. But a person has to think, even when a person's hurt, even when it's hard, think Think about the future. Think what the future could have been. And if a person saw flaws in the other person and how the flaws could have got worse, so you should be ecstatic it didn't happen. And then go further. Right? So, person may be hurt. They may be broken. So the question is, so why were they brought together? Could be to show what a person should never get involved in. To show that this would have been terrible if you would have went through it. So someone would say, but it's painful. Okay. Plenty of things in life that are painful. Question is, do we grow from it? Do we learn from it? I know some people, the spouse, they ended up married. They thought they're going to marry someone else. Now other things happen, and they say, they say after the fact, how could I marry such a person? Why would I have thought to marry such a person? Because of a lot of different things. And they saw it afterwards. Doesn't mean they didn't go through pain. Doesn't mean it wasn't hard. Right? But it could be, again, this is just one idea. It could be, why did God put these people together? To show a person what they really need and what they don't need. But, and even if you see what you don't need or what's not good for you, okay. Right? That's not a bad thing. It still may be painful. Right? So it can help them see what reality really is. But a person can say, come on, I didn't expect this. I didn't want this. And, this is what happened. It was against my will, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But you see, we have another statement. The other statement is that when doors seem to be closed, other doors open. Now, a person can say when you're in the middle of it and going through all kinds of difficulty, you say, where's the light at the end of the tunnel? And that's just a lot of times. Different things. And you might not see it for a while. And then you might see it and then it becomes dark again. Life is about ups and downs. And the question is, what do we do with the downs when we're down? I mentioned this last week. I was feeling down about something. I saw someone on the bus, this mentally challenged person. God should have, compassion here. Couldn't really walk, barely talk, other things I'm not going to mention. Whatever, someone was helping this person. I'm like, well, I don't have that. You see, we complain about so many things. This isn't good, and that's not good, and this is hard. You're right, there are a lot of hard things. We always say there are a lot of hard things. Are there a lot of good things? We have a lot of things to be thankful for, a million things to be thankful for. The thing is, you have to remember the things you're thankful for when you're down. Air. You have air to breathe. You can breathe. I know someone who fell, much older, they're mid-80s. And because they fell, I don't think they broke any ribs, but that area was sore. They have trouble breathing. So thankful, for breathing. They don't have any, they have some other issues, but nothing major. Right? Now they got COVID, so now they feel like, they feel terrible. Been laid up for, a couple of days. I'm sure breathing can't be that much easier. Now they have it, depends how a person gets it, whatever. But the person fell the way they fell, they had trouble breathing now. Not that they're on oxygen. I don't even think they're on an inhaler. But sometimes they just have trouble breathing. Like, well, if someone doesn't have that, be thankful you don't have that. Be thankful, your brain works. Be thankful. There are million things to be thankful for. It's hard to be thankful when being beaten down in life. That's the bottom line. Right? But we're going to remember, there are a lot of good things. A lot of good things. Someone asks, is it better to read more Tehillim, more Psalms, or less with proper concentration? Better to read less. Right? Better to read less, than read a lot without understanding. Someone asks, I shouldn't laugh. My mother and grandmother both been insulting Judaism, and now they're sick. Is that related? Could be. Could very well be. I had someone tell me, they've been intermarried for 35 years, nothing bad's ever happened. Well, a year ago or more, they ride, they ride a bike a lot. It's coming down a hill, lost control, went around a corner, whatever, went flying off the bike, broke 6 ribs in their collarbone. Couldn't sleep because there's nothing really to do. Didn't have a cast. Whatever. It could have been a heck of a lot worse. Heck of a lot worse. But thrown off their bike, went too fast coming around the corner, right? It's like that old Three Stooges joke, go faster. I can't. Why not? You can't find the clutch, right? Take out the clutch. You're stuck. You're stuck over here. Right now. When I spoke to this person, I didn't say, oh, see, it's measure for measure. See, you're intimate. He's not going to see a connection. Right. But the person said, well, nothing really bad's ever happened. I think breaking 6 vertebrae and your collarbone, being laid up for about 2-3 months, and being in pain and can't be able to sleep for a good portion of it because you're in pain. I don't think that's nothing. That's certainly not nothing. Is that payback 100% for intermarriage? Who knows? Who knows what it's payback for? Maybe get them to appreciate life more. I don't know. Could be a million things. Could be a million things. Right? Why is the person sick? Why is their body physically sick? Because there's something going on spiritually also. Person doesn't get sick physically, and everything's going great spiritually. It doesn't work that way. Now, could it be if they're insulting Judaism and this and that and they get sick? It's not a coincidence. 100% that's not a coincidence. Is it a direct result? Not necessarily. But it definitely could be related. We're not prophets. We're not sons of prophets here. We can't say. Right? It's very hard to say. Right? But sickness can be atonement if you understand it's atonement. Right? A person says, well, I just got run down. I got sick and nothing ever happens anyway. And everything is all, what do you call it? All, everything happens by chance and maybe someone sneezed on me. Maybe this happened. They're not going to see direct connection. Right? Now the question is, can we see direct connection? A lot of times we can't. But, is being sick a form of punishment? Yeah. 100%. 100% can be a form of punishment. So if they're sick, is it related to this? Very well could be. 100% could be. Does that mean in general that, it can't happen? It has nothing to do with that. It could be. It could have to do with other things. We don't know. Right? But, if it's a short time frame, if a person makes all these accusations and different things, Judaism's this and Judaism's that, and they make fun of it, and then shortly after they get sick, that's not necessarily coincidence. Right? If you tell me it's 6 months later, very hard to say. If you say it's like a few days later, a week later, it could be. It could very well be. We don't see directly. Very hard to say this is because of this is because of that. We don't see. Right? It's impossible to see. The only prophets today are either imbeciles or little children. We don't have prophecy today. 100% we don't have prophecy today. But again, if someone, that's what they do, and they're making fun of the Torah, they're making they're making fun of Torah, you're gonna say, and they get sick shortly thereafter, very well could be a direct connection. Someone here points out, very good, Proverbs chapter 28, verse 9, one who turns away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer is an abomination, right? Right? If they don't listen to the law, why does God want them to pray? He doesn't want their prayers. People can do terrible things. They can be quote unquote religious, and also God's not going to hear their prayers. Right? 100%. 100%. You can't go by what King James says. Even a lot of things, you look in Proverbs, what King Solomon says. It's not clear. I mean, some things are very clear, but there are things that are not clear, exactly what it means. Right. But, we do have to understand there is measure for measure. There is such a thing, God dealing with us measure for measure. We don't always understand, the measure of a measure. And even, after a long period of time, sometimes, we get a glimpse. I was, just speaking to someone earlier, and, a person asked, well, how long have you been in Israel? So I said 27 out of the last 30 years. This person looked at me, I said, that's why I had a 3-year hiatus, and then I came back. So I was there 13 years and 14 years, whatever, so, we think we're in control. We think we're in control. There are a lot of things we see we don't understand. Some things may be a little bit easier to understand. But again, the question comes back, okay, person went through this and they suffered a lot. They might have suffered a ton. Could very well be. But just because the door gets slammed shut does not mean other doors don't open. But you say it's been this amount of time and it's been this, okay. Things take time. Things take time. I mentioned before, I had a 17-year odyssey. Within that 17 years, it took almost at least 10 before I saw a certain, light at the end of the tunnel in different ways. Took a long time. Things were up, things were down. Things were down, things got a little bit better. Things were down, it's been a spiral. It's been 100% a spiral over here. There are no easy answers. There are no easy situations here, but no situations for waste. We just don't, many times we don't understand. I will say like this, that, a person has to realize that, there are things we could have done in the past that have caused what's going on now. Could have been longer in the past, shorter in the past. Could be what my soul has to go through. But a person has to realize one thing, and that is the way God looks at things, and how he's going to judge it. We have no idea. But a person can say, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing the other thing. Why haven't my prayers been answered? So, why haven't been helped out over here? Why am I getting knocked around like a rag doll right now? Months back, things are better, things are easier, this, that. Maybe got to learn to appreciate things more. Maybe it's payback right at the end of the year. God's got to, take everything all into account now. At the end of the year, going to make you pay for other things. Okay. Problem is, we want answers now. We want to see why now. And there are no answers. We don't have answers. Right? The question is how we deal with it. So, these are hard things. I don't think there's any question. Everything we go through, what did I learn? Right? So, a person should pray and say, listen, I probably deserve a lot worse. I probably deserve 10 times worse. But you know what? This is not an easy situation. You're the one who can change it. You're the one in charge. Remember all the past good things you did and you helped me out. You need to help me out now, even if I don't deserve. That should be the mantra. You're the one in charge. If I tried this, you got to put your best foot forward. Right. But sometimes, you know what? Things just can go on. Question is, what do we learn? What am I learning over here? Did I learn anything from it? Did I become better or not? Or do we say, I want the easy Rabbi Dr. Google answer. I just want to plug in the formula and get the answer and move on. It doesn't work that way. Because at the end of the day, we could get squeezed in so many different directions. And you say, come on, but I'm doing this, I'm doing that, okay? You know what God's saying? Not good enough. Got to work harder without being destroyed. You got to work harder. That's what we got to do. That's what my obligation is. Is it going to be easy? No. Definitely not going to be easy. Right? But, if there are obstacles in front of us, there's a reason. If God putting people together and it doesn't work out, then what did I learn from it? What did I gain from the pain? No pun intended. What did I gain over here? What did I learn? If you didn't learn anything, it's a problem. You have to learn something, right? And many times, again, you know, from experience of others. Many times, at least in this area, a person's going to see, wow, thank God this happened this way. Thank God that, you didn't end up doing this. Because if you did, your life would have been a misery. 100%, because you didn't see red flags or you didn't want to see red flags. But if you saw the red flags and you got out and it's painful, okay? But remember, you got out. You weren't put together for nothing. God put you together for a reason and then got you out because it wasn't the right thing. So now, the person understands what they need to do, what they should look for. Again, no easy, clear-cut answers. Any other questions? All right, if there are no questions, then I'm going to sign out. So I'm going to wish everyone, because I'm not going to be here on Sunday, not going to be in class on Sunday, no class on Tuesday. Well, actually be a class Tuesday night, Duty to the Heart. It'll be after Rosh Hashanah. So I wish everyone a happy and a healthy new year. Everyone should have good health. Everyone should have, livelihoods. They should, get the things that they need. They should be in tune with what they need to be in tune with, and God should bless them, in everything that they need. So I'm going to sign out. I'm going to wish everyone a good beginning of the day, middle of the day. Anyone has any questions, find me at Michael Chaim Kaufman on Facebook or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wish everyone a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day, depending where you are. And everyone have a great rest of the week and a happy Rosh